Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do a casual chat with what I'm currently reading and show you some of the books that I got from my library this week. So these are the main books that I'm currently reading. They're not the only ones that I have started. I have a pile behind me as well, but these are the books that I've been actively reading during the week and that I will be prioritizing in the next few days, as well as I said, some of the books that I have out from my library that now that I finally fixed my loan card, my library card that had I had to renew it in the library. So I've had a bit of a break with library books and I got excited when I finally got that fixed. I'm listening to two audiobooks. One of them is The Fisherman by Chigozie Obioma. This is a Nigerian author and I'm reading it for Nigeria for Invisible Cities. It is a story about a group of brothers. I think they're four or five brothers. They hear this prediction about one of the brothers doing something that will change their relationship. So it's kind of a family story and the dynamic in the brother group, the sibling group. And I found it really interesting because I don't feel like I've read a lot of novels that focus in on siblings rather than parent-child relationships in family stories. So that has been really great, and also I find that it is the kind of audiobook that I can lose myself in. The other book that I'm listening to as an audiobook, but that I also own as a physical copy, is Disney's Land by Richard Snow. Walt Disney and the Invention of the Amusement Park that changed the world. Obviously, this is about Disneyland and the designing phase, the idea being conceived, and all of the steps getting this Disneyland to happen. It's really interesting. I've never been to Disneyland in any country. It's definitely on my list of things to do and to travel to. So I don't have any personal experience of these places. It's been really interesting to hear about the way it differed from amusement parks of the time, and also you can sort of sense the way that the concept of Disneyland shaped and affected other amusement parks after it. So there's a local amusement park in my city, which is probably the biggest one in the Nordic countries, and I can sort of see some of the similarities and where they've got some of their inspiration. One of the things I'm finding is that I really like nonfiction on architecture and design, which we'll get back to with the library books. Then the other main nonfiction I am currently reading is Their Plant Eyes, a personal and cultural history of blindness by Leona Godin. The title is pretty self-explanatory, but it is talking about blindness from sort of literary history and representation in media and in art. It talks about the societal construction of blindness and the view on sight as well, and how all of our preconceptions and stereotypes and prejudice around sight and blindness. I have a lot of things that I want to discuss with this book. I might even do a review for this just to have more space to talk about all of the various things that it touches on. And then I have a book that I have just started reading this. It is The Red Planet, A Natural History of Mars by Simon Morden. I got this from Elliot and Thompson, the publisher of this. It's coming out on the 2nd of September. And as you can tell, it is a science nonfiction book. I am so excited to read this. So first of all, let's just take a moment to look at these stunning end papers. I really love this design. But so this is a book about Mars, Mars exploration, our understanding of Mars, and again, it's sort of talking about, because a lot of our understanding of Mars is speculation at this point, it sort of talks about some of the theories, some of our speculation, and some of the things that the author thinks is a likely version of the truth, but we obviously don't know everything. So from the bits of it I've read so far, I find that it's kind of different. The style of this is kind of different to a lot of the pop science I've read. I really like his approach to the topic. But I definitely want to prioritize reading this so that I finish it around the time that it comes out next week. But I read a lot of, I think it was last year, that I read a lot of space-related nonfiction, and Mars was one of the topics that became kind of a red thread. I also wanted to share, as I said, the books that I have out from my library. So 2 of them continues with the architecture design topic. This is a Swedish nonfiction book. I think it's a fairly recent publication. Sverige, Blev, Modernt by Gedin. This is a book about Swedish architecture and design in around the 30s, and I saw this when I was in my art museum, my local art museum's store. They have so many fascinating sounding books, and I picked up a book by Kheir in that store at that time, but I also wrote down several other titles that sounded interesting. This was one of them. So it's talking about sort of, it says functionalism and sort of the everyday design things. This one is centered around Stockholm, so the capital. So it's a kind of a different style, I think, to where I live. But yeah, I'm curious to see what this one is like, and it has a lot of photographs and illustrations as well, which is always something I enjoy. Yeah, so there's that. This one is a very unusual design for a book. So you can see this is the inside of it, and this is actually a bilingual book. So this side is the English, this is the Japanese, and it is called Designing the Quietness, Contemporary Finnish Design by published by Japan-Finland Design Association. So again, it is pretty self-explanatory. It's about Finnish design. I figured this would be a good overview of Finnish design and give me a few names that I could look up. I can't tell if I'm showing you anything with this very clunky book. In general, I want to read more about Scandinavian design and architecture, because it is something I do really like when it comes to like home decor, interior, and architecture design for the kind of buildings that people actually have to move in on a daily basis, like libraries and that kind of thing, schools, hospitals, etc. Next is another book that I found through browsing my art museum store, and that is As Serious as Your Life, Black Music and the Free Jazz Revolution, 1957 to 1977 by Wilmer. I mean, I'm really into jazz history, and I'm really into jazz music, and reading books like this is such a great way to find new names to check out. For Invisible Cities, we have a Discord community with various threads and discussions going on always. Someone in our Discord mentioned this book, and I think they both enjoyed it and was kind of confused by it. And the way they described it just made me kind of curious, so I had meant to pick this one up the next time I went to my library. This is Slipping by Mohamed, Kheir, translated by Robin Moger. This is supposedly an Egyptian sci-fi, I think. It's definitely Egyptian. Urban fantasy is how my library has categorized it. A struggling journalist named Saif is introduced to a former exile with an encyclopedic knowledge of Egypt's obscure magical places. Together as explorer and guide, they step into the fragmented, elusive world the Arab Spring left behind. Next is a book I have mentioned in the Swedish book recommendations video I did recently. This is The Pen, I think is the English title for this. Is Pennskaftet by Elin Wägner. I read one of this author's other books in July and I just wanted to continue reading her bibliography. This one, as I said, does have an English translation, unlike the other one I read. And she writes a lot about women's rights and working women, particularly around the turn of the century. And then I have two books that has been a long time coming. Both of them I've been wanting to read for a long time, and the authors I've wanted to read for a long time. And then when I read the Pessoa book this month, which I'll talk about in my August wrap-up, it mentioned that both of these authors are some of her favorites in the, I think, like the author bio. So I was kind of inspired to pick these two up after reading that in the Pessoa book. So we have the Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa, translated from the Portuguese by Margaret Joel Costa. This is a beautiful designed book by New Directions, of course. And I think this is like a journal type of stuff. An autobiography or diary, Fernando Pessoa's work is arguably the greatest achievement of Portuguese literature. So, as I said, an author that I've been really interested in, and I want to try his poetry out as well, but I've been really enjoying autobiographies and memoirs, that kind of thing, lately, and so I thought this would probably be sort of in the same vein, something I would probably enjoy. And then lastly we have The Rings of Saturn by W.G. Sebald, and this is translated by Michael Hulse, another New Direction book, of course. I think probably when it comes to translated literature, New Directions is in my top 3, if not the first place. This book has been a very long time coming, particularly because Jasmine Alexa, I will link her Instagram below, she has talked very fondly about this author in this book as well. And it's also been referenced in, like, this author, I think, in general, has been referenced in a lot of the books that I've been reading in the last few months, I think. So I keep seeing his name everywhere and it feels like it's meant to be that I need to pick him up, and this is definitely the one that I'm most interested in. From what I can tell, a lot of his writing is sort of a mix of travelogue and history and philosophy. That is the impression I'm getting. The Rings of Saturn, with its curious archive of photographs, records a walking tour of the eastern coast of England, a few of the things that cross the path and mind of its narrator, who both is and is not Sebald. It just sounds like it's kind of a mishmash of various things and threads, but it sounds like the kind of thing that I could really love. Those are the books that I wanted to share today in my currently reading / library haul video. I would love to know if you read any of these. Have you been borrowing any books from your library recently? I've been really enjoying getting back to them from having a bit of a break over the summer, and I have a lot of books that I want to borrow from my library in the near future, so I'll probably do more library hauls soon. But yeah, that was what I wanted to say today. I hope you're doing well and you're taking care of yourselves, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.